The Dark Knight, the Caped Crusader, the world's greatest detective, and many more are the nickname of DC's most interesting comic book character. But no matter the nickname, yes, Condiment King. We're doing a deep dive. But no matter the nickname, the man behind the mask is billionaire playboy orphan Bruce Wayne. With The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson, set to release this Friday, March 4th, we decided to rank not only our favorite theatrical Batman, but also our favorite Bruce Waynes. Our rankings start from Michael Keaton's adaptation of Batman and end with Ben Affleck. Before we get to our rankings, we do want to shout out two legendary actors who played Batman, Adam West from the 60s TV series and motion picture that related, and Kevin Conroy, who started as the voice of Batman in the 90s animated series and the subsequent movies that followed. But now it's time to dive in with our favorite Bruce Waynes. Brenton, why don't you start us off? Your favorite number 5 Bruce Wayne.
5 is to me Val Kilmer, Batman Forever. He did take Chris O'Donnell as his ward, Tim Drake, the Tim Drake Robin, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it a combination of the Graysons? Because I know in the circus it was the Flying Graysons, but I felt like it was Tim Drake. I should have come more prepared for this.
That's all right.
This was the first of the Schumacher Batman movies. It was a direct reaction to Batman Returns, which was a little bit too dark for the studio's likings. I believe the exact quote was to Tim Burton was, "Come on, we're trying to sell toys here." And that's hard to do with, the penguin eating fish and looking disgusting, Danny DeVito. Not a great look. But yeah, Val Kilmer as a really, and this is just because Clooney wasn't a bad Bruce Wayne.
Oh no,
he's a suave guy.
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of played in his favor, and as a result also sort of kind of made it so that this kind of bumped Val down the list. I think that this movie is actually much better than Batman and Robin. Dick Grayson, it was Dick Grayson. I thought it was Tim Drake, but it's Dick Grayson that Chris O'Donnell played. I think that this is a better movie than Batman and Robin, but for me, Kilmer is the least of the Waynes.
I'll reflect that when we get there. I actually, and this is, on our Friday episode, we went into this a little bit with our DC. I actually have Ben Affleck as my least favorite Bruce Wayne. And the reason why is actually, I think most of the, from our group, I think everyone actually plays Bruce Wayne pretty well in the sense that, he's this rich guy and they have to kind of be this separate character. He's not the vigilante. He's kind of a jerk. And Ben Affleck to me was like, he has the great line about being rich and things like that. But there was a part where he was almost too much Batman when he was Bruce Wayne for me, in that he was the brooding, superhero type. And I'm not even saying this is necessarily negative. Like, I think actually all these are good Bruce Waynes. When you think about that, it was just, for me, he was a little too much on that side of not being the billionaire playboy that I expect with a Bruce Wayne, which I'll get into more. And I think it could just been the overall tone of these movies. It's like the Schumacher movies are obviously like ridiculous, but there is that tone of like, at least it's a little, it's a little tongue in cheek. It's something like that. These movies, and this is because he's not a bad Batman. Actually, we've actually discussed this before, Ben Affleck, but the Bruce Wayne just doesn't come through for me. And maybe it's because he's an older Bruce Wayne.
Sure.
And that may actually be the issue. So he isn't the young one that we get with other Bruce Waynes. It doesn't work for me in that level of billionaire playboy doing extravagant things, maybe even being a little like nerdy to some degree too, in a sense of like secret nerdy because he is actually smart. And so I put him 5. But I think that it's one of those things where I don't think the gap between I don't think the gap between 5 to 1 on the Bruce Waynes is as wide as the gap between 5 and 1 with the Bat.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I don't hate that. Yeah. Sure. I mean, I think you made good points with that. Number 4 for me, and this might draw some ire, is it's actually Keaton, Michael Keaton.
Oh, wow.
And I think it's because his Bruce Wayne is really goofy. He's not like in any way suave. There's this scene in 89 where he's watching Vicky Vale and the reporter, can't remember his name, go through like the art collection. And he's like, he's looking and he's like, and then the whole thing, like, you want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. That was like almost Beetlejuice. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so like he played Bruce Wayne a little bit more goofy than like suave. I mean,
the
part
Tim
of that's
Burton-ness.
maybe, yeah, sure. There is a little bit of Burton there. And I think the Burton kind of maybe shows, what we should have done while we were at it was we should have ranked all the villains in all these movies. But
we can always do that. We can always do that.
Now?
No, I mean as an actual
as
episode. Yeah, I think an episode would be good on this.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at with Keaton, is as a Bruce Wayne, a little bit too goofy for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, I get that. My number 4 is Val Kilmer. A lot of the same reasons that you had said. He plays a little more suave because this is peak Val Kilmer.
Mm-hmm.
This is, if you've watched Val, the documentary, I mean, he actually ended up hating being Batman because the suit was ridiculous. I mean, he just couldn't move around. But when he got to be Bruce Wayne, he is a handsome guy in this movie. He gets to be charming. He just falls a little short because I actually think the direction of this movie, it may not even be the Val Kilmer part of it. I think with a lot of this, I don't think it necessarily has to do with, it's basically what you're allowed to do. And Val Kilmer just wasn't allowed to be, he wasn't the focus of that movie. Yeah. It just, and that's the bummer about that, is Batman was almost kind of secondary in a way with those movies, which is sad because I think that could have went a better direction. I think that's, a little bit of a bummer, but he at least got to be a little bit more suave than Ben Affleck to me. And that's why he's 4.
Mm-hmm. 3 for me is Clooney. I think he gets the nod because he just looks the part better than Keaton and Val Kilmer. I think the thing with Clooney, though, is that movie's so bad that
right.
It's like, I think I've only ever seen it once, so it's kind of hard for me to grade him as Bruce Wayne. It's easy for me to grade him as Batman, and we'll get to that. It has less to do with him than something else.
Sure.
But I buy him as Bruce Wayne. I buy him as Bruce Wayne more than I buy Keaton and Kilmer. Just the look of him. Like, he doesn't even have to say anything, and he has the look. You know what I mean?
Right.
So for me, that's why Clooney is my number 3 Bruce Wayne.
I mean, I don't remember. I think, and that's, I have Keaton at 3. But I'll bounce on to the Clooney thing because obviously he's coming up on my list. For me with Keaton, it's part of the reason why you have him low is why I have him a little higher. It's not significantly higher, but a little bit, is that Bruce Wayne is kind of nerdy. I mean, there is that weird kind of thing about him where he is this orphan child, and there has to be some sort of, like, it sounds weird, but there has to be something sort of socially awkward with him.
Mm-hmm.
And this is maybe
sure.
the best adaptation of him being that socially awkward person in a sense. And this is also a Batman movie that, we talked about. It's Tim Burton. It's Jack Nicholson being such an extreme character that I almost feel like the counter has to be a Bruce Wayne that is kind of nerdy and kind of like, aw, shucks. And I think that's where he kind of plays that role in a good way. It's a cool looking, there's with his like nerdy glasses and everything like that. I do kind of like that. In a way, it's where I wish they would have played, when we talked about this before, I wish they would play more into that in this movie, because he is kind of nerdy now, but you don't really get to see it as much as you would like. But that's, why I have him 3 and with the color, of course, I think we kind of know which direction we're going here next with both of us, but go ahead, Brian.
2 is Affleck for me.
Okay.
And I think that it's less of the Justice League one and more the Batman v Superman one, where it is. See, for me, the older Batman works a little bit better. The older Bruce Wayne works a little bit better. They allude in the film to everything he's lost. There's the Robin suit in the Batcave covered with the ha ha ha, which is presumably a nod to the A Death in the Family comic where Joker beats Jason Todd most of the way to death and then leaves him in a tied up in a warehouse with bombs strapped to him. He's seen some shit. This is a Batman who's seen some shit, and he's been at it for 20 years. And I think he wears that not only as Batman, but he also wears it well as Bruce Wayne, of just like, I'm out here fighting clowns and all these things, and now there's a goddamn alien. I think he just wears that well. And I think it comes through very well as Bruce. And I do think that there's the moments when he's flirting with Diana, right? Because that's sort of the playboy thing coming out of him. Or there's the moment in the bar where he's speaking Russian to the Russian guy or whatever. And it is that's the suave sort of I know I'm playing a role, Bruce Wayne. And the older one just works for me more than.
What's funny is I get that. I think that's a perfect way to put him at too. You described that in that perfect way. I think either that works for you or it doesn't.
Yeah.
And for me, it just doesn't work as well, which is is what it is. And for you, it does. Like I said, I don't think the difference between 5 and 1 is that great with the Bruce Waynes.
Yeah.
For me, it's George Clooney, and a lot of the same thing is he just wears it well. If that movie was just called Bruce Wayne and it's George Clooney, just Bruce Wayne in it, and we don't even have to worry about him turning into Batman, it's probably a pretty sick movie. I mean, honestly, because he wears it well, he has the attitude. I mean, this is ER George Clooney. This is sexiest man George Clooney kind of thing. So this guy is literally peak person, probably the most famous actor in the world at the time that he plays Batman, and he's wearing that. Like the way you say that Ben Affleck's wearing the 20 years of, saving Gotham City. And it's just he's wearing I am a rich billionaire. This is pretty cool. And also I'm George Clooney in real life. This is also pretty cool. And so I think that's where that comes through is, he has that, he looks good. He feels good. Unfortunately, he also has to be Batman in this movie, which we'll get into later on.
Number 1 on the Bruce Wayne list, obviously by process of elimination, it's Christian Bale. I feel like he was born to play Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
And I think that he cut his teeth on being this character as Patrick Bateman.
Yep.
And I think the scene that embodies the Bruce Wayne for me comes in The Dark Knight, when he's with the 2 just moron models, because that's what Bruce Wayne should be doing. And they're playing in the fountain, and the waiter comes over and says they can't do that. And he says, well, I'm Bruce Wayne and I'm buying this restaurant. I'm going to make little changes to the aquatic activity rules. That's
it's perfect.
That's it. That's Bruce. But also I feel like that version of Batman, and I'm interested to see what they bring to the table with Pattinson's. I think that that's the Batman that, on the Bruce Wayne side of things and the Batman side of things, embodies the world's greatest detective. Most of what we've seen, the way he cuts it up with Lucius and Alfred, is what you want to see. And I think that he is the best Bruce Wayne out of the bunch.
And obviously I have the same. I have Christian Bale. We've discussed on and on about he's, if not our favorite actor, one of our top 2 or 3 favorite actors.
Yep.
The scene for me, there's a couple, is when he has the yacht out and just when he's because he's catching the old little aircraft to get off there, and he leaves Alfred with all the models. Like that's a Bruce Wayne move. You take the whole cast of this Broadway play or musical, and you're just like, no, I'm putting you on a boat because you're all a bunch of Russian models, and we're going on this.
Yeah,
I love that. And then also in The Dark Knight, where he has the party and he just kicks everybody out, and he's a total a-hole about it. And
that's Begins.
I'm sorry, it is Begins. Yeah. I'm sorry. When he just kicks everybody out, and he's like, I'm Bruce Wayne, all this stuff, and just sorry, I got to confused. But it's where he kicks everybody out, and like that's also a power move. Like that's a billionaire move. Like, well, night's over, and I'm tired of you being here. And you could totally believe that, even though he's doing it for the greater good of doing it. It's a billionaire playboy move. I would also just say the other thing that I really like is just he owns cool cars, and he drives them around. Yep. And like, I know that's the thing he has to do, but he does it well. Like he gets the car, and he's like, he gets the motorcycle, and he like rides the motorcycle really well. And he's not Batman when he's doing that. It actually is just Bruce Wayne doing certain little things like that. And so he still kind of is that hero, but then he also portrays being rich and cool. And like you said, he was born to play Bruce Wayne. It's weird. Like he wears the suit well. He has the arrogance. The cut-ups with Lucius when they're designing things are great. I mean, we talk about how the newer Batman movies aren't necessarily, there's no time for a joke. But as dark as these other movies with Christopher Nolan get, he cuts jokes in. He makes it like, oh, I'd like to move my neck, and stuff like that, which is not necessarily funny, but it is a joke between the two. I mean, like they're still saving Gotham City from something crazy. And he's like, I just want to move my neck and things like that. And I really like things. I do like things like that help move the story along. It doesn't have to be funny, but it has to be at least funny enough that like, yes, he's going to say something like that when he's talking about being Batman, but also he's just a person. He's not a superhero. He actually isn't a superhero.
I think my favorite like comedic relief line in that vein is when they throw the curtains open and he goes, "Bats are nocturnal."
Yes. Yeah. It just, there's so many. He just really does a good job of that. And like, I was going to make that reference. I think American Psycho as Patrick Bateman is essentially that same character.
It's very,
Someone that's a little screwed up, and instead of, it's a different, the biggest difference is, maybe
different coping mechanisms.
Yeah. Different coping mechanisms. But no, I think that was really, and he wears the death of his family well enough. And it's just, I mean, Christian Bale is, you'd also just say of these 5 people, Christian Bale's the best actor. I mean, I think that's, I mean, when you go what he's done, the different characters he's had to play, it may not be, far and away, but he is a very, one of the best actors, and he gets to do this. But that's a good list. Jamie actually, she sent me her list as well. And so I'll go ahead with that.
Sure.
Her 5 was Val Kilmer. Then she went Ben Affleck. Change of pace here. She went Christian Bale, then George Clooney, and then her number 1's Michael Keaton because of the nerdiness. We discussed it. She goes, I like him being a nerd because that's what Batman, can be.
Wrong.
Knowing Janie, I'm not surprised. It's like I probably would have guessed it probably to a T with that.
Right.
But we'll move on now to our favorite Batman. Now this is based I want to make that clear, is like the Bruce Waynes were the Bruce Waynes. The Batman are them as Batman.
It's a different character.
It's a different character.
Essentially, it is a different character. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So on that, Brenton, 5 on your Batman.
Clooney, nipples. Next.
I also have Clooney.
Look, they're right here.
It's bad. It's bad. Also, he just doesn't seem very heroic.
Look
in the movie. I also have him as 5. They're right there. It's not his fault the suit has nipples, but it is his fault that he doesn't seem very heroic in the movies and doesn't seem like actually Batman when he's Batman. He just it like that's the sound. And we mentioned Adam West. Like Adam West at least seems a little bit more heroic. He's just kind of there showing up because he has to, because he's got the costume. And it's just, that's the biggest problem I have. And that's, a flaw with this movie is just, I don't even know.
That's
I don't
the flaw
even
with
know.
this movie.
The nipples are aggressive.
Why didn't Batgirl have nipples? Why didn't Alicia Silverstone's suit have nipples?
I guess that would have been weird for people. I don't know. It was just a weird movie in that sense of things.
And it was weird in the sense that it sucked.
Yeah, it also is not good. But we can quickly move on from that because
you know what?
This is the greatest discrepancy. I will say between 5 to 1, I think the discrepancy is insanely different. I think that's one of those things where like this Batman isn't even like in the same galaxy as the number 1 Batman. And it's just funny to me. Here's your 4, Brenton.
I think that this is worth noting.
Yes.
Okay, because we did on Friday's show, we did the Rotten Tomatoes conversation, and we talked about some of the disparities. No disparity here. Tomato meter 12%, audience score 16 on Batman and Robin. That's hilarious. That's oppressively bad.
Oh my God.
I mean, there's just so much about it that was bad.
Yeah.
So much about it. Freeze in hell or whatever.
Yeah, it is real bad. It's real bad.
My number 4 is Val Kilmer. Simply because he's just not as good as the top 3. But he's better than...
I'll also say he talks about how uncomfortable he is. And it seems like he's uncomfortable. I think that's also part of it too, is like he doesn't have the free-flowing movement that he should have.
The same suit as Keaton? Because it looks like...
I don't think it's the exact same suit. I think it's a similar. High ears. I think it's the same design, but not the same suit. I know that Robert Pattinson had to put on
all of them,
all the suits, and that's crazy. Yeah, and he talked about how ridiculous the nipple suit was.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the biggest thing. You're right too. Is like the next 3 Batman are just better at Batman than Val Kilmer was, and I think it might have just been because A, the script was weird. But B, he just seemed uncomfortable. And that is not good.
Yeah. It's probably worth noting that the reason that Keaton bounced after Robin was because of the change in director.
Yeah.
And kind of we talked about that earlier, was the whole thing where the studio went to Tim Burton and said that Batman Returns was far too dark to sell Happy Meal toys, basically, or action figures or whatever. So it was Schumacher, who had more of a reputation for like ultimately kind of like what Marvel does now. I think that that's what they were really trying to do with the Schumacher movies, is kind of make them what Marvel does now, which is really ironic because they flopped in the 90s. Yeah. Obviously, we just said 16 and 12 for Batman and Robin, but it just wasn't, it doesn't serve that character.
No.
This type, like you couldn't put Batman into the Marvel formula and have it be like genre defining, like the Dark Knight trilogy was.
Right.
Because it would just be boring, most likely.
Yeah.
I mean, like Batman has to be done a certain way. Where are we at? Number 3?
3. Yeah.
For me, it's Affleck. And this is, it's also kind of in the sense that it is, I really like Ben Affleck as Batman. I like him as Bruce Wayne, and I like him as Batman. The problem is he's just not as good as the other two guys.
Right.
But I do find, and we covered this in the Bruce Wayne section, I like the older Batman thing. But the thing I don't necessarily like about this Batman, because I actually considered putting it at number 2, but I don't like that he uses guns.
Yes.
And that's a deal breaker for me because Batman doesn't use guns really. I mean, there's instances of him using guns and killing people, but that's really not
It's something we know.
It's not like it's canon because it happened in the comics at times, but it's not like we know Batman has one rule. Like he's not going to kill anybody unless it you know, whatever happens. But yeah. So that kind of drops Affleck for me, but I like his Batman. I like that his Batman is more of a brawler. You know what I mean? He's thicker. He's very thick.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I have Ben Affleck 2 at 3. And it's that reason is that I think Ben Affleck may be the perfect middle between this too. It's weird that it's 5. He's significantly better than Val Kilmer.
Right.
And he's also
Clooney.
And Clooney. But I just mean because I have 4, I have Kilmer at 4. And then he's just not close to who I have at 2 and 1. It's just one of those things where he does a really good job at being Batman to a degree. The guns thing throws me off. The fact that like he is older, but then he is also a little too nimble for me at some points is kind of weird. It's like, are you older or are you not? I know you're still Batman. You're still a human. You're not a superhero. So that was a little weird. Like you can train really well and he got super buff. I did hear a joke the other day where it's just like, I felt like instead of like actually saving, the world, he would maybe like more concerned. And this was as Batman about just putting a CrossFit gym in. And it's like, there is kind of that for me where it's just like truly rise and grind, but just lifting weights.
And I don't like his suit as much.
It's almost too much.
And the reality of it is that the suit is as much of the character as the person inside it.
Yeah. And the best suit, Brenton, what do you think is the best suit? Just now we're on that. Best suit. We don't have to rank them, just best suit.
Sure. I think Keaton's.
It's Keaton's.
It's classic.
Yeah.
You know what
Keaton's.
I mean? I really like, and this is, moving forward, but I really like Pattinson's.
Yeah. That's going to be sick.
The emblem, the bat emblem is made from the guns that murdered his parents. Like that's fucking deranged.
Cool. Yeah.
And so like that actually kind
makes
of
me
shows
excited.
you a little bit about what this character is all about. The issue with Bale is that he had 3 different bat suits.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so how do you pick? So the best bat suit for me is it's Keaton.
And it just looks cool. I mean, honestly, like it still holds up. It's I sent you the sneakers that are based off of it. I mean, there's just certain things that are just they look cool.
Hey, here's best Batmobile.
Keaton's.
Yeah, definitely.
I actually like Pattinson's too. This is another thing where like Pattinson's is like a revved up
it's like a Charger
Camaro.
Or something like Camaro, something like that. Yeah,
it looks super cool too. Like the Rover and stuff in the Dark Knight's trilogy is good, but it's not that cool looking.
It's funny to me. I would almost switch the Tumbler for
the Tumbler. I'm sorry, I said the Rover.
Yeah, well, I think that's what it actually is, right? It's a military rover.
Yeah,
but I think I would switch the Tumbler to give that one to Affleck, and give Affleck's, which was a little bit more sleek and sporty, to Bale, because I think it fits those characters a little bit better. You know what I mean? The Tumbler being more of a big, brutish, like a tank, basically. They say there's a tank on the rooftops.
Yeah.
And whereas Affleck's Batmobile definitely had more, like it just looked faster, looked sleeker, it looked like it handled better, that sort of thing.
I've seen the Schumacher Batmobile in person, and it's cool. Cool.
I've seen the Keaton one in person.
Oh.
Yeah, it's at one of the Smithsonian's in DC.
Yeah, I did. They had it. I did see that too. I did see that. I forgot I actually did see that. I took a picture of the one here. That's right. I did see. I've seen both. I would like to see the Pattinson one. I hope they do something with that. That would be really cool.
We'll see.
Yeah. And then the Batwing in the original in the Batman with Keaton is awesome too. His little flying. I love that thing. It was like the bat.
I don't really care for the aerial one in the Nolan movies.
No, I don't like the aerial
one. Ugh.
Yeah, it doesn't look
weird.
great.
Yeah. All right, what are we on, 2?
We're on 2.
2 for me on the Batman side of thing is Christian Bale.
Okay.
He's I think it's. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
My headphones got weird. I think that it is less about him and more about. It's kind of a thing where the star of all the Christian Bale Batman movies, as much as Christian Bale is the star, is the villains.
Sure.
And I think that kind of takes away from him as Batman, because he gets outwitted a lot.
The first one isn't so much. You get more of the Bruce Wayne aspect in the first one than it is. Yeah.
Right. But I think that he gets like outsmarted a lot in the second two. And I don't necessarily have a problem with like the Joker outsmarting him, because that's kind of the Joker's thing. But Bane outsmarting him was a little much for me. And so I think that drops him a few points on the list.
This may just be because of what I said earlier. I also have Christian Bale too.
So our list for Batman was exactly the same.
Isn't that? And it's weird because I think, with us both being Christian Bale fans, I thought one of us would do something different.
Yeah.
I think there was something there. And also you can flip. I mean, there's definitely reason to flip other people in the middle. But for me, it's not exactly the same reason. It's that he doesn't do necessarily all the Batman things that you think about. And that's because of Keaton. And I know that sounds weird, but he does very cool stuff. He uses all those things that he uses, but it's because of Keaton's Batman. And that's kind of my thing. It's just, no matter what, it's like Keaton's Batman was doing raising his cape, making that cool thing, doing stuff like that. And you're just like, okay, he has cool gadgets. He does that stuff. But a lot of what made his Batman cool was because Bruce Wayne was so cool. And so when he came into Batman, and like you said, he's just not in it enough as Batman.
Right.
I mean, the best thing I think for as a Batman scene is when he does have the confrontation with the Joker in the cell, and he kind of loses it. Yeah. And that's the best Batman scene to me. That might be the best Batman scene in any of these movies. Purely Batman, he really loses it. I mean, he comes as close as he can to doing what he says he wouldn't do.
Right.
I mean, the Joker has driven him this mad, but it's not to take away from, this character at all, but there is this point where you're just like, somebody else does Batman a little better just because not necessarily because he did it first, but it's just, there's something about that character, seeing that suit, having that Batmobile, we'll get into that. As good as that is, he just wasn't Batman enough. And that's why I have him at 2.
Yeah. And then we both have Keaton for 1. Yeah. So, for me, it's all about the classic feel. He looks, the suit looks classic. The Batmobile looks classic. He has, just enough banter with Alfred. He's got, the love interest in Vicky Vale, although that's more of a Bruce Wayne thing. He's the one who's, he's not the original, right? Adam West is the original.
Right.
But I think that he took the character, whereas Adam West Batman was kind of seen as like this sort of bumbling goof. And then you've got Robin, who's able to solve the Riddler's ridiculous riddles, where it's like, what's the most deadly bird? A hummingbird with a machine gun. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? But that was more goofy and campy, and like Cesar Romano and everything playing the Joker, and he just looked ridiculous. Keaton made the character a little bit more serious and a little bit more believable as a badass. And it's like funny to think of. To me, it's kind of funny to think of that time period, Michael Keaton, where he's doing like Beetlejuice, what
Mr.
I mean?
Mom,
he's doing these comedies and stuff like that, and then he takes his serious turn as Batman in the original, and then also Returns, and it's like, okay. And then the guy falls off the face of the earth, after he does Multiplicity.
Yep.
And then he comes back for Birdman, and then he plays the Vulture. And I almost feel like the character that he plays in the Vulture is kind of how you want Batman to be played.
Sure. Yeah.
And so it's kind of like a full circle thing. And then of course we're getting Michael Keaton as Batman again with Batman Beyond and The Flash. and these things. So it's a great time to be a Batman fan right now. But yeah, I mean, that's just the classic feel of that character and how he plays it.
It's a classic feel. It's the things he does. Also, this is just, he looks good as Batman.
Yeah.
He has the chin. I mean, like, of all the guys that really, like, when you see that face, I mean, like, I think if you just close your eyes and you think of Batman, you think of Michael Keaton. He has the emblem. He has the high ears. He has the chin. There's something to be said about that. It's like, not that George Clooney doesn't have the chin. It's up, but you have the nipples, but you have the yellow symbol, and like, he's just, the thing is, the dichotomy of him being Bruce Wayne and not being really that cool, being nerdy, and then when he becomes Batman, he's cool now.
Yeah.
You know, and just like he turns cool. Like, there's something about it's like going to school that first day and having your new shoes. You just feel better. And like, he's wearing that suit, he just seems cooler and better. And the biggest difference is, like, Bruce Wayne for Christian Bale is very cool being Bruce Wayne, but when he turns into Batman, it almost feels like he regresses. And I don't mean in a negative way of like the character, and it's just that he doesn't feel as confident in that. But there's that confidence of actually being Batman is so cool, and that's why I think it works.
So I have a little treat for you.
Yes,
it's going to be a this or that lightning round of Batman villains. So I'm going to give you 2 villains, and you tell me which you prefer. Okay.
Sure.
Ready?
I love it.
Riddler or Catwoman?
Catwoman.
Okay. Poison Ivy or Harley Quinn?
We're talking about the movies, right? Just based off the movie.
In general.
Just in general.
Yeah.
Poison Ivy. Poison Ivy.
That is correct. Joker or Two-Face?
Joker.
Bane or Mr. Freeze?
I gotta go Bane. I mean, he does break Batman's back.
He does break Batman's back.
Paralyzes him.
Yeah, for a time period. Nightfall, great run. I think Mr. Freeze, not the Arnold Schwarzenegger version, but Mr. Freeze's backstory is actually really interesting. So on that one, I go Mr. Freeze.
Okay.
Penguin or Scarecrow?
Penguin.
See, I go Scarecrow. Penguin's the classic Batman villain.
Right. I think that's probably where I'm
afraid of him. Okay.
No,
I'm just throwing it out there. He is weird, but I mean,
he's conniving.
Oswald Cobblepot, like, I mean, you don't have to be Batman to beat the shit out of him. I'm sorry. Ra's al Ghul or Talia al Ghul?
I'm gonna go with Talia actually on this one.
Okay.
She controls Bane. I mean, like, that's
in the movie.
She also does in one of the comic book renditions of it too. That's where they did take that from.
Typically, I think Poison Ivy is who kind of and he's also Spanish in the comics.
True.
So that's a point of contention. Black Mask or Carmine Falcone?
I'm gonna go Carmine Falcone. Just running the underground. That is something you said for that.
I like this matchup. Victor Zsasz or Hush?
Hush.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Hush
is one of my favorite storylines.
It's a good one. It's a really good
one of my favorite. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. King Shark or Clayface?
King Shark.
Okay. And now the matchup of the century.
Yeah.
2 heavyweights.
The best of the bunch.
Calendar Man or Condiment King?
I mean, I gotta go Condiment King.
Yeah, you have to.
Calendar Man is rad. I mean, these are actual characters, everyone. Just, we've said this before, but both actual characters. Condiment King. He wears a pickle helmet, and he's got 2 backpack guns that shoot mustard and ketchup. Condiment King. And then finally on the beast side of things, Man Bat or Killer Croc? Man Bat. It just makes more sense.
Does it?
Whole thing. Well, Batman.
Yeah, I guess. I mean,
if you get a full size,
I like Killer Croc a little bit more.
That's fair. If I saw like a man-sized bat, I'd probably be more freaked out because crocodiles are already big.
Yeah, but Killer Croc's huge. He's like the size
right,
of
he's
the
huge.
Rock.
Yeah. So,
He was,
you know,
very poorly represented in the Suicide Squad, David Aircut.
that's true. Yeah.
Very poorly. And that's the thing. And that's, you know, like the other thing is going back to our previous discussion regarding the Peacemaker from Friday's episode was doing things the right way was King Shark. You know what I mean? In Suicide Squad, done very well. So again, the Batman, Robert Pattinson.
Oh, quickly, I'll just do Batman for Janie.
Oh, okay.
Because she did do that. Ben Affleck, George Clooney, Val Kilmer, Michael Keaton. She has Christian Bale as number 1.
Affleck in last place.
She has Affleck. She just does not like those movies. I mean, I think that's just so.
Teach their own.
Yeah.
Most people don't like those movies.
Yeah.
I think
so.
I'm in the very rare minority. So.
Well, I like the movies fine too.
Well, I don't like the 2017 Justice League. That movie's trash, but I like Batman v Superman.
Yeah, me too.
So you're hosting, so you got to do the roll.
Oh, I'm sorry. And so when I host, so that wraps up the weekend hug, everyone. Thank you for joining us.
This was episode 85.
This is episode 85, the Ocho Cinco episode.
Which is that's a misnomer because it's episode 85, but it's actually like the 105th episode.
So you can catch us on all our social medias, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Just look at BXG. I mean, that's the easiest way for anything like that.
Make sure you put in podcast. BXG podcast.
Make sure you put in podcast. Make sure you put in the podcast.
Because you might find something you don't want to find.
Or something you definitely want to find. I don't know. Depends on who you are. So catch us that way. We're glad you joined us. Go see Batman on Friday, like I will be doing the second I get out of work. I'm very excited. We will do a review on the Batman too.
It'll be up that weekend.
We'll have it up that weekend. I'm very excited about that movie. I think the rankings could change based on what I've seen and know about it. I love Robert Pattinson. So thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. This is what we want to do. This is what we love doing. So we really appreciate it, everyone. Catch us everywhere. 5-star reviews on Apple. Get us up to 200 so we can get that RT, that Rotten Tomatoes. BXG, RNG, RT. That's where we're at. Hashtag tell your mothers. Woo-hoo-hoo. So thanks again, everyone, for listening. We really appreciate it. We'll see you again on Friday.
Take care.
Take care.